Welcome to the Sample Chapter Podcast, the show where authors read a sample chapter from one of their books. Here's your host, Jason A. Meiske.
Hello, Sample Chapter listeners. Hey, this is episode 274 of this show. And this week, we are bringing a brand new author to you, one that I haven't met yet either. Well, I mean, like most authors I've had on the show, I have not met them. This week we're talking with Gabrielle J Miller. It's a great conversation. She's a military vet, former Walden Books assistant manager, which was a great store back in the day. I miss Walden Books. But we're having a good conversation about being told, what it was like to be told, write that book that's in your head by a librarian, world building techniques, how she's been writing since the age of 8, getting into character when she's writing, and taking a chance on happiness. That and so much more is coming up here real shortly, so you don't want to miss that interview. It's a good conversation, and I think you're going to really enjoy that. So stay tuned here about another 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll get right over to that. Meanwhile, I want to start things off by thanking everyone who came to the Knob Noster Open Air Market last week, Saturday. Such a good time. Really had a good time. Sold a whole lot of books. And I was really overwhelmed with the reception that my books had. A lot of people really interested in Bandit. And, I remember years and years ago, early on, hearing things like, oh, if you want to sell books, you got to have a series. And they say, oh, but the caveat to that is you don't really start selling that series until you hit book 3. And, after this past weekend, there may be some truth to that, because I sold the set, like all 3 books together, multiple times. And I was really surprised by that. And, as much joy as that brought me, to do that, I was also really thrilled. Had a couple of people, one guy in particular came up to my booth. He saw my sign, saw the posters from his booth across the way. And at one point he comes over and he was just telling me about how he was looking me up on Amazon. Was so excited about the Bandit Chronicles, the first book. He needed to have it. It was such a great, such an intriguing story for him. And he and I just kind of chatted back and forth for a little while, talking about the 80s and the Bandit and, what goes into that, what my plans are. And that, yes, there will be more Bandit books. I have a prequel I'm working on right now. They'll come out later this fall. And, to meet someone with that kind of enthusiasm for something you've created, man, that just really made my day. That was so special. So, if you happen to be listening to this episode and, and who you are, thank you for coming by my booth. That really, really made my day. And I hope you're enjoying the Bandit series. Everybody that came by, I hope you're enjoying all of those stories. And, hopefully we'll have some more out real soon. But getting ready to do it again this weekend, May 24th, I will be at the Cemetery Walk and Flea Market Craft Fair in Florida, Missouri. It's right next to the winery. It's the birthplace of Mark Twain. And I'm real excited about that because, I'm a fan of Mark Twain. I mean, as a Missourian, of course, I'm a fan. And Mark Twain actually makes an appearance in my most recent short story, The Ghost Raiders, which is in Mystic Springs, an anthology that came out in November. And he is one of the ghosts that visits my protagonist, who's looking for inspiration. So if you want to know more, click the link in the show notes for my site, and you can go in there and find Mystic Springs, and check out my story, Ghost Raider. But and if you happen to be in the area, Florida, Missouri, this weekend, then come by and check out the booth, and you can grab a copy of any of my books while you're there. All right. Well, hey, without further ado, I think that's enough about me. Let's go ahead and get over to that interview with Gabrielle J Miller. Hello, Sample Chapter listeners. Hey, welcome back. This week, I'm getting a chance to visit not only with one of the members of our local Writers of Warrensburg, but also one of the writers I have yet to really sit down and talk to. And you're going to find out about that here in just a moment, why that is. We are here this week with Gabrielle J Miller. Gabrielle is an award winning author, creator, artist, and proud mother who has been telling stories since the age of 8. Her path has been anything but linear, shaped by her experience as an athlete, a military veteran, and a former engineer. Eventually, she left that career to embrace her true passion, storytelling, and the arts. Writing across genres like epic fantasy, urban fantasy, science fiction, post apocalyptic worlds, dystopian, and erotica, her worlds are known for their intricate world building and deeply emotional narratives. When she's not writing or creating, Gabrielle finds joy in family life, diving into great books and dreaming up her next project. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the show, Gabrielle J Miller. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, and I appreciate your patience as I tried to get your name out. I realize I don't say your name that often, so oh my
That's fine.
goodness.
It's all good.
All right. So yeah, doing well. Like I said, I was looking forward to this as well because we have a lot of authors that have joined the club since since I've been in, and over the years I've usually gotten to meet them. I've been with the group for like 10 years, but after COVID, my schedule changed, my wife's schedule changed, and I'm not as available on Tuesdays when we meet any longer. So I've seen your name pop up several times. We had that event a few weeks ago in Sedalia, but still didn't get a chance to sit down and chat with you. So looking forward to finding out about you a little more, along with the audience.
I'm
First
excited
off,
to be here.
yeah. Well, first off, as a military veteran, I want to thank you so much for your service. I am definitely one who I really appreciate what you did and your service. And it's nice. I want to make sure to honor that because as a veteran myself, and my wife is also a veteran, it's kind of annoying to me whenever people look automatically at me and go, "Oh, you're a veteran. Great. Thank you for your service, sir." And I'm like, thumbs over, like, "Hey, her too, her too. Women serve as
Yeah.
well."
Yeah,
So,
it's always been a big deal in my family. My grandfather, father, and brother are all were all Navy, and then I'm military as well. And then yeah, it's my daughter is active duty Army right now. It's a big thing in our family.
oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, that it went that way with my wife and I as well. She was the first woman in the family to go in, and both of us were the first in our families to go Air Force. So that was cool.
Hoorah.
Exactly. So, so then you spent your time in there. You got into engineering, and then what was the point where you decided, like what was that inspirational point where you said, like, I'm it's time to walk away from that. I want to start going after my passion. Tell us about that.
Well, I got out after my 4 years. I got out and to go to college. That's basically, I did my time just to go to college, and I got out and started going to college. I was up at UNO because I was stationed up at Offutt, so I just started going to UNO right there and got my degree and moved back home. And um, I started working for Black and Veatch. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Hmm.
And I found out I hated it. I absolutely hated being a number just expendable in a huge corporation like that. And it wasn't what I wanted to do at all. And I knew that. And um, I'd kind of worked my way through college at a bookstore, and I went to him one day. I was like, listen, you've got the assistant manager position open. I want it. He's like, it's full time. I was like, I know, I'm going to quit my other job. He's like, you are not. And I'm like, I am. So I did. And I started working for the bookstore, and it was a huge pay cut, but I was so much happier. And yeah,
That's cool though. I mean, happiness is everything. The money's nice, but yeah, happiness is where it's at.
yeah, absolutely. I'm big on that.
And I mean, it's not just that part of it too, but I mean that starts to affect your health when you have anything that's stressful. You're not enjoying it. It brings everything down.
It absolutely does.
So, how long were you with the bookstore? And everybody, we got to tell you, she worked for Walden Books. And for those of you who don't know, that was an epic bookstore back in the day, long before Barnes and Noble and all that. Amazing. So, what was that? What was that process like, or what was that time like?
Um, it was actually one of the best times in my life. It was the Little Walden Books at the Blue Ridge Mall there in Independence, if you remember the Blue Ridge Mall.
I do.
And we had a core group of coworkers that I'm still in touch with to this day. I worked there over 7 years. I was still there the day that the mall closed down. They offered me a position at the Walden Books in downtown Kansas City, and
Mm-hmm.
that was much too far of a drive for me because at that point I was living out in Pleasant Hill, and I was like,
Okay.
that's too much. So I kind of just stopped working altogether and became a stay-at-home mom and full-time writer.
Oh, okay. Did you how did your writing get started then? I mean, did you have some success right away, or what did it take a while?
Oh no, my writing got started when I was 8 years old. I grew up in Kingsville, Missouri. I had a graduating class of 12,
Oh.
and it was a very small town with a very small school and a tiny little library that was shared by kindergarten through 12th grade. So the portion of the library that I was allowed to go to was minuscule. And I went to my librarian one day and I was like, I want to read this book. And I explained the whole book to her. And she's like, I don't think I've read that one. Where did you find it in the library? I was like, well, I didn't find it in the library. I just thought of it. And she was like, well, then you need to write it. The book doesn't exist yet. You need to write it. And so I did. And when you live way out in the country like that, and we were dirt poor growing up. We didn't have a lot, but I had pen and paper, and that's what I did with my days. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and it's what I've always done. And it just kind of one of those things that has always defined who I was as a person. And at that point, what after the bookstore closed down, it kind of became more of who I was, but I still wasn't confident enough to put my work into the world.
Mm.
That came actually about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. So I would assume you probably have, like a lot of us, that drawer full of either finished stories or partly finished or beginnings, lots of stuff like that. Then through those years of all that writing.
I have a four drawer filing cabinet full of handwritten books, some done, some not done. And then I have my to be finished pile. What's the folder? I have it labeled on my computer. I have about 200 unfinished stories on my computer.
You know what? But I have come to, from personal experience, I have come to realize there is value into hanging on to that stuff. It's not like the clutter that's in my garage or out in my shed, all that kind of stuff. Idea of how to finish a story that I started 25 years ago and dug that out, pulled out my notes, and like, there it is. I've got it. And so now I can get back to it. And you never know when one of those stories may come back to life for you.
Oh yeah, they absolutely come around all the time. I'm constantly finishing stories that I started years ago and putting them out there in the world, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what was the first story that you published, and what was the process like? What was your thinking? Like, how did you identify this is the one?
Okay, well, it's kind of funny because I wasn't confident enough to put my name out there under my name. So I went to a site, and it's a fairly popular site, and I used a pseudonym, a handle,
Hmm.
and put my first story out there. And it was one that I had written a long time ago. And it's a spicy story. It's a short, spicy story. And I won't get into super detail, but it's one that I'd always liked that I wrote for myself. But I put it out there because I wanted feedback on my writing and I wanted to be able to just kind of take baby steps. And the spicy books weren't that important to me. So I had enough confidence under a, a pseudonym to be able to kind of put it out there and just kind of see what people said. And now, that same site, I have about 150 stories, and I've gotten a lot of feedback and a lot of confidence. And now I have books on Amazon as well. And yeah, it's been kind of a process, kind of a confidence building process for me.
Wow. That's remarkable. Then 150 on that other site. That's wild. So
I write a
where do
lot.
you yeah, sounds like it. Do you have a particular inspiration that you tend to go back to a lot? I know you kind of dabble in lots of genres, but is there like one in particular you're like, I keep going back here?
I love paranormal urban fantasy, and I love post-apocalyptic worlds. Most of what I read is epic fantasy and science fiction and horror, so I will dabble in those as well. But I have a big love for the paranormal urban fantasy type books.
Okay. That's really cool. Then I appreciate that. And I mean, I like writing and some of that too. I kind of keep coming back to the thrillers. Like it's always, I need that, a little bit of the whodunit and the action and going from there. And it keeps me riveted in my seat and keeps me going into the next chapter and then the next chapter again. But it's nice I really enjoy getting to, like with this show, hearing other people's takes and like, oh, yeah, all right, I get it. Yeah, okay, that does make sense. And with this genre or that genre, and it's always just interesting to hear, what was that draw and how that got you going. And one of the things I've seen people talk about your writing is your world building, how immersive it is. Talk a little bit about what do you do whenever it comes to world building and how do you bring your worlds to life?
Well, I do have a world where at least half of my fantasy books are set. And if you read my books, you'll see a lot of the same country names over and over again. And if you're familiar with them, you kind of know the world, and it's a huge, expansive world. And I've really fleshed it out and over the years. And I've had this world probably 20 years now. And I can this one in particular, I can tell you pretty much anything that happened in this world along the timelines and where the lines of the country have moved from this war, that sort of thing. But usually when I write a book, the world building comes as I write because a lot of people call it getting into character, where I become the character and I write from their point of view.
Hmm.
So I am the character and I am the world, and I just write it as it comes to me, and it's just very it's a lot like method acting, I guess is what you call it. But as long as I'm in character, I can keep writing. And I do it quickly, and
how
it's just
many
one of those things for me.
yeah, how many words a day do you think you put down?
Oh, when I was writing the Mansers series, the first book, I wrote 200,000 words in less than a week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I was not prepared for that answer.
I didn't get a lot of sleep, but that book was really in my head, and I could not get it out until I got it down on paper. And yes, I did write that one down on paper because it stemmed from a dream. I had a dream and I woke up the next morning and I couldn't write it down right away because I had volunteered to take my son's he was in a choir competition, and I agreed to ride along and keep the kids in line. So I brought a notebook and pen with me, and I wrote the whole notebook all day long was filled with this. And then I had to borrow someone else's notebook to keep going with it. And then I had to transfer it once I got home, I had to transfer it to the computer and keep writing. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. That's amazing. Wow. I was going to ask then. So, I mean, it sounds like you didn't, like none of this was planned. It was just coming to you as fast as you could write it down.
exactly. That's a lot of what I'm at my writing is it comes to me as fast as I can get it down, and sometimes faster, and my fingers trip over themselves, but I go back and correct the mistakes later.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. Yeah. So now, do you keep a Bible somewhere so you don't make a mistake, or do you keep that in your head pretty straight, like for book to book?
From I do have a little notebook where I will keep character names and that and locations and that sort of thing. But a lot of what I do, I have a Pinterest board. So when I know what a character looks like, I will find someone who looks just like them and pin them
Mm.
on a board in my Pinterest board so that I can easily refer back to them and tell at a glance exactly who they are and what they look like. Primary characters, secondary characters, tertiary characters, I've got all of them. I keep track of all of them so I know exactly easily who they are.
That's pretty cool. I've heard a lot of people who have done that with Pinterest, and that's one of those things. Like I feel like, oh, I would love to do that, but I also know myself enough to know I would get lost in it for a few weeks and get no other writing done. So I don't think I can do it. I think I stay away from things like that just because like I will get nothing else done.
It
I
is
gotta
easy to
keep
get lost in Pinterest.
going. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Well, so what do you have? I mean, you got all these books and different series. I guess it looks like you got a lot of, I mean, I don't know, are you putting a lot more focus in Amazon books now going forward? Or are you kind of going back and forth between the other site?
I still write for the site all the time.
Mhm.
In fact, everything new I do, I put up on the site first, just as kind of a litmus test.
Okay.
And now what I'm doing is kind of going through my larger books that are on the site and the ones that are more popular that get the better reviews, I am transferring them over to Amazon.
Okay. So you kind of get a feel for, yep, this one's working, or you got some feedback on how
Yeah.
to correct it, and then you can put it out there. That's actually brilliant. Okay, I like that. Well, what are you working on now? Is there anything coming out soon?
Uh, Currently, I had just got done with my like fifth edit of my Mancer series. Actually, the one I was just telling you about, where
Hmm.
that I wrote while my son that I wrote on paper first. That's the Mancer series, and that's the one that I'm working on putting out next.
Okay, that's pretty cool then. And when does that come out? Oh, I guess
Um,
you don't, not sure yet.
I'm not positive yet. Yeah, I still have to get a definitive cover for it that I'm happy with, but it's really hard to do. I'm finding I've always had been able to do covers for my books pretty easily, but this one,
Hmm.
because it is so important to me, it's my baby and want it
Yeah,
to be perfect. So
and
yeah.
I really like, I mean, because that's one of the things I've noticed here too, that you are very involved, very wrapped into this independent world where you are taking care of, I mean, not just the books and the content, but you are handling your own covers, taking care of all of it. Do you think you'll ever entertain the idea if a publisher came along and said, "Hey, we've got a number in mind. We'd like this book."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just my big problem with that is that finding the time to track that stuff down and get that stuff done and still write.
Mm. Hmm.
It's I can't stop writing long enough to get all that done. So I just it's been everyone tells me, oh, you're going to face, 100 rejections before you get the one that says yes. And I'm like, why? I don't have time for that.
Exactly.
Who
Yeah.
has time
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah, I mean, because you get done with the one, and it's like, yeah, my mind is already moved. I'm on the next book. I'm two books down.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like it's hard enough to remember to go back and promote the book that came out recently. It's like because I'm
Yeah,
already.
that's the promotion is the other thing. I had somebody ask me the other day, oh, do you do all your promotions and stuff? And I'm like, I taught myself to use Canva and I'm trying to teach myself this and that. And I asked my son questions and he rolls his eyes and calls me a boomer and just laughs at me and says, I'll do it. And I was like, no, teach me. I need to know how to do it because I can't send it to you every time and have you get it back to me 3 weeks later once you've gotten to it. I want it done now.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, between writing and putting together some posters for my books, and then with the show, I do some other things with the show. So I've learned taught myself different methods with Canva and appreciated the different, whether it's JPEG or, okay, which sites would prefer a PNG. And oh my gosh, it's just, I do it just enough to keep myself informed, but I still haven't gone down that rabbit hole of like, oh, what is this in Canva? What is this? And I gotta keep myself held back, hold back on the reins a little bit so I don't go all the way, but just enough where it's like, I'm gonna play with this a little bit and see where this goes and what I can come up with. So a new poster or maybe a bookmark or something like that, and then of course stuff I do with the show as well with the cover art on each episode. But there's so many other things, so many distractions in the writing world that you
There
got to be
are.
careful
And
of.
when you try to, yeah, you try to do it all yourself, and it's like, I have to schedule myself time to do those things. It's like, okay, it's Tuesday morning. Tuesday is supposed to be TikTok. And I did not keep up with TikTok. I started one, and then everybody's like, "Oh, if you get your books on TikTok and they go viral and blah 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 blah." And I'm just like, I started doing it, and they were like, "Oh, you have to do it every day." And I'm like, "Every day, every single day? I can't do that." So, yeah, I was just like, I have a TikTok somewhere, and I haven't touched it in like 2 months. So,
Oh gosh.
but yeah, I have time scheduled for all that stuff for marketing and for different things, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
and if I don't
Yeah.
mark, and if I don't schedule for that sort of stuff, then I won't do it. I will lose track of time. I have to put it in my phone and give myself a beeping reminder, hey, it's time to do this. Or yeah, I will keep writing.
Well, I mean, that's one of the hazards of being a full-time writer, though, is you get to break up your day in that method and write for so long, and now it's time for promotions, whatever next, or maybe some research. And it's one of the pitfalls, but also one of the nice things of having that full-time job like that. And I'm envious. I'm looking forward to that problem one of these days here soon, I hope.
Yeah, it's the whole agent and publisher thing. That's one of those things. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that someday. And yeah, I won't say how old I am, but I'm getting pretty old. And now it's to the point where I'm like, yeah, if they fall into my lap, it'll happen. But
Well, and stranger things have happened, and I know how involved you are with getting your name out and helping promote others, which is pretty awesome. I one of the things one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on too is I know how much you put a lot of effort into helping others and promoting others and inside the group. And then and I know you've got some things coming up in the city and you follow along with some of the groups up there, and that seems to be that Kansas City group seems to be getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and I'm kind of like noticing like, this could really turn into something pretty big. I'll have to just kind of keep following along with this and
yeah,
be,
absolutely.
I, yeah, I'll be
I'm
maybe get a
loving
little
it.
more involved. I am too. I am too. So, well, so tell us where can people find and follow you?
I am on Facebook at author Gabrielle Miller, Gabrielle J Miller. I had to put the J in there because there's more than a dozen Gabrielle Millers on Amazon, actually. And one of them is an actress who was on a famous show back in like the 80s. So I'm not the
Okay.
first person you find if you put in Gabrielle Miller, but I'm the first person you find if you put in Gabrielle J Miller. So on Amazon and Facebook and all that. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, well, we'll make sure and have links for all of that in the show notes. Gonna wrap it up with uh, one more question I ask everybody. I have a little bit of a would you rather, and this
Okay.
is author writer centric. So, would you rather stick to one genre from now on that sells very well, or dabble in different ones but not have the same success?
Oh my gosh. That one's a hard one because I do love to dabble. I'm all over the place. I have my favorites, but
Hmm.
yeah, I would rather dabble because I write for the love of it and not for the money's nice, and I hope to, retire someday on
Hmm.
it, but I would rather be happy. So yeah,
I
I write what I want.
There you go. I agree, and I think that's a good bookend to the show. We started off with you leaving a job for happiness and to find that, and then, yep, come back to it again here at the end of it with with your author career. And it seems like you are definitely pursuing that. And I wish you the best of luck. And thank
Thank
you
you,
so
you
much
too.
for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, everybody, make sure you stay tuned next week.
Gabrielle will be back
with a sample chapter from one of her books. And we're going to surprise you up until then. So until next week, everybody, take care.